All right, guys, welcome to your asynchronous session number 5. We're going to be going over, like I said, Project 6. Project 6 is different than Project 3. Project 3, you wrote an informational paper. It was all research letting us know about a certain topic that you picked. This paper is going to be argumentative writing. So you're going to choose a side and you're going to try to persuade and inform people about your side so at the end they'll want to do what you say. Like they'll have a call to action. They'll feel inclined to act in some way. All right, this paper that you're going to write needs to have an intro, a thesis, or a claim, 5 to 7 credible sources, 1 graphic aid, so that means like a table, a picture, um, a somebody put in one of theirs like a cycle of a process, which is really helpful, a conclusion, and a works cited page that is in MLA format. Okay. Now, you should, from your informational paper, already have a bunch of sources in there. So that is going to make this paper so much easier. You're going to write on the same topic. And I'm going to show you how to do that today, how to switch your paper from before into a new paper, into an argumentative one without redoing all the work. So this should be much easier. Okay. You guys with me? Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your paper. Look at the spelling, the grammar, the punctuation. You're going to want to fix those things. If you had any mistakes before, fix them. If you ever use the word I, me, we, us, those first person pronouns, get rid of them. So, for example, if I said, I really think that it is important that we recycle. You can't say that because you said I. Then it makes it about your opinion, not a factual paper. So you want to say is, it is really important that we recycle. Just leave out the I believe or I think or whatever. If you did it already, make sure you add a graphic aid, okay? Image or a graph related to your issue. You want to put in even more evidence. So depending on how many you used before, you need to be up to 5 to 7 now. So if you already did 5, maybe you could add 1 more. If you only did 2 or 3, then add a few more so you get to that 5, okay? You also want to use transitions. I noticed that this is an area of weakness for our whole class. So this is an area that was kind of difficult. So transition words are like when you're starting a new paragraph, if you say like more, or I'm sorry, you say like in addition to, or moreover, or can you guys think of a transition word? Oh, that's perfect. Therefore, that's a really good one. Therefore, blah, blah, blah. Usually there's a comma after your transition too. So try to keep that in mind. So if you said also, comma, blah, 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 or therefore, comma, blah, 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 or however, comma, blah, blah, blah. So those are transition words. They're really helpful for your reader to understand the organization or the sequence of your writing. Um, so anyway, let's add some of those. They're very important. The next part, in-text citations. I only got like 1 or 2 out of our whole class that had in-text citations. So that is something that we all can work on. So don't stress if you're one of the people that don't have it in there, you're not alone. But let's try to add that in this paper because we're just taking our old paper and making it better and changing it around. I'm going to be a little bit harder of a grader on these things right here, okay? So keep that in mind. I have some amazing resources with in-text citations. So if you don't know what they are, or if you don't remember how to do it, or you need a little help, send me an email, message me or something, and I can help you with those in-text citations. Basically what it is just putting the author's name and the page number in parentheses next to anything you put in there that's a fact that isn't from your own head. Okay, so anything that the average person wouldn't know, you need to have a source that can prove it. And you're going to put that in the in-text citation at the end of your sentence, okay? And then a works cited page in MLA format. I got some great works cited pages. A lot of them were in MLA, but at least you guys are moving towards that works cited page. So that's really good. I see you're typing, Liana, so I'm just waiting for you, hon. Okay, where do you put it? Okay, so I'm going to give you a little example. I'm going to type in your box, okay, right here. So say I said natural resources are running out. And say I read that from from an article that I read from these scientists called um, Al Smith. Whoops. Al Smith wrote this article, and it was on page 4, and then I put the period at the end. That's what it should look like. Does that make sense? That's usually the easiest way to do it. You could put the author's name in the sentence if you want. There's lots of different ways. Liana, would it help if I sent you, you know what, I'll send it to the whole class, a little cheat sheet of how to do in-text citations, all the different ways that you can do it, and then that way you can just kind of copy it when you're doing your paper. Okay, perfect. I'm glad you got it. Okay. So first things first, we're going to transform our thesis. Okay. So say at the beginning, say for your project 3, your thesis statement said, while hydraulic fracking is an effective practice for extracting oil, it is important to consider the impacts it has on the water supply, air quality, and climate of eastern Oklahoma. Okay, so that was very informational. It's very informative. Now, you want it to be argumentative. You want to take that sentence, that thesis, and you want to make something happen. So here's the argumentative way of writing that thesis. The federal government should ban hydraulic fracking in the United States due to its harmful impacts on water supply, air quality, and climate. Do you notice here that the 3 main points are the same in both papers? Or I'm sorry, in both thesis statements? Water supply, air quality, and climate. Water supply, air quality, and climate. So most of the research and information that you have from your first paper, you're going to use in your second. But you're going to use it now instead of informing to prove your point or to make something happen. So what do we want to happen? We want to ban it. And who do we want to ban it? The federal government. So it's kind of funny. It reminds me of a chair. What are we going to do? We're going to ban it. Who's going to ban it? The federal government. That's kind of funny. Anyway, what will you attempt to convince your audience to believe or do about your issue? So go ahead and let me know right now. What do you want? What do you want them to do? You don't have to write your whole thesis statement, but what's going to be your point after thinking about your informational paper? Awesome. So you're going to go more towards just the knowledge part. Believe that waste should be prevented. Good. You could even, I mean, that is an awesome thesis. You could go all kinds of ways with getting rid of waste. You can say that you want the government to start laws on waste prevention with companies. You could say you want people to stop wasting, to stop the waste, to start preventing it at home. It all depends on what your 3 points were and how you can make it work with your 3 points. Okay? So, Liana, you are right on it. That's great. All right, so we just did that. What is your environmental issue? What will you attempt to persuade your audience to do or to believe about it? And what are 3 reasons your audience should support your claim? Liana, when you did your original thesis, will those 3 things that you used in your informational resource or research paper work now with your argumentative? What do you think? Oh, sorry about that. Okay, the 3 things. Remember in your argumentative research paper, you had 3 main points in your thesis. Will those 3 main points still work for your argumentative paper so that you don't have to rewrite it and you could use those to support your claim of believing that waste should be prevented? Will they still work? While she's typing, Will, how is your paper going? Or your ideas going in your head? Um, well, Leanna, I don't remember what your original thesis statement was. Do you remember what your original thesis statement was from your first paper? Will, do you remember what was on yours? Preventing air pollution? Perfect. Okay, so can you think of what your call to action is going to be? You're thinking about it? Okay. But now at least you have an idea of how to start it, right? Or where to go with it. Okay. So just so you guys remember, when you go to do it in your informational thesis, you should have had those 3 things, and then those 3 things hopefully should fit into your argumentative one. So that the only thing you're really needing to change is the purpose of your thesis, to call to action, and to prove something, no longer just to teach something. Okay, we're going to talk about the elements of an argument. Um, so we're going to talk about an argumentative paper. There's 7 things that your paper needs to have. So let's talk about the first 3. First, you have to have a claim, which we just talked about, or a thesis statement. So what the writer wishes the audience would accept, either believe or do, right? And then the 3 reasons why the claim is valid. Those are the things we've been talking about. So we've kind of got that, either we're thinking about it or we kind of already have that set. So you have your claim, what you want them to believe, and your 3 reasons. Then you have your evidence underneath to support it. These 3 things come really easy from what we just did in our informational paper. Okay, we have lots of evidence in that paper, lots of information that we could turn into evidence, use on our side. Um, Here's examples of types of evidence. We should have facts, we should have statistics, we should have expert opinions, so like researchers, scientists, people from like the EPA, um, anyone that has any type of authority on the subject, they can be in our paper, quotes from them. We also should have examples. So like Will's is about air pollution, so we could talk about like California. Oh my gosh, you drive through there and it's like there's just smog everywhere. You can't even breathe, right? Or Liana, you could talk about waste and how in certain parts, like our country has so much more waste than some of the other countries. Like it's really embarrassing. So you can use all kinds of examples in your paper. These all qualify as evidence, okay? So if you are doing a outline, it should look like this. You're going to have your huge thesis statement right here. Here's your 3 points again: water supply, air quality, climate. Now look, those 3 things get divided up into paragraphs: water supply, air quality, climate. This is going to all be one paragraph. This is going to be another paragraph, and this is going to be another paragraph. Okay? Reason 1. Oh, that was a lot of typing, Liana. You worked hard over here. Waste management program. Oh, perfect. Okay. Such as food and organic recycling, construction debris recycling, and universal waste recycling. Okay, so you have the 3 types of recycling. So perfect. Those are going to be your 3 points of your 3 reasons, and each of those is going to be a paragraph, just like your last paper. And you're just going to switch those now to be proof instead of just information. Okay, great job, Liana. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so reason 1: unsafe and unmonitored practices that contaminate drinking water. That's her reason number 1. And then there's a bunch of evidence, and you can see some sources that she's going to use to support that or to prove that. So this one only has 1 source. This one has 2 sources, and it looks like this one has 2 sources. So that's 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got your 5. Okay. So far so good. Now, these next 4 parts of an element of an argument are a little bit different. You have to have a counterclaim at some point. So that's a summary of the other people's viewpoints. So it always helps when you're proving your point or trying to teach somebody something or make them believe what you believe, just to play like a little bit of devil's advocate and go ahead and put in there or explain the other person's point of view so that you could shoot it down and say why it's wrong. Okay? Otherwise, the reader is always going to be thinking, but what about this? What about this? Well, if you say, hey, I know what you're thinking, and that doesn't work because, it makes your point even stronger. So that's the counterclaim, the summary of the opposing viewpoint. The concessions, recognition of where the opposing viewpoint has valid points. So you say, yeah, they're very valid, those things that you're thinking because of this, but here's the rebuttal, it doesn't work because of this. So for example, a counterclaim could be, hey, I hear what you're saying, maybe for Liana, like, all these recycling programs sound really great, but the counterclaim is it would cost companies so much money to do all these recycling programs. And your concessions would be, yeah, you're right. It would cost companies a lot of money, thousands and thousands of dollars for small companies, millions and millions for large companies. But again, my rebuttal, however, in the end, if we don't have, a healthy planet and a healthy environment, we won't survive as people and humans. So maybe we should just go ahead and invest the money in that, or whatever. You'll probably come up with something much better. But that's what these 3 things are for. Does that make sense? Do you understand the counterclaim, the concessions, and the rebuttal? You guys with me? Awesome. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm going to show you another example of that in just a second. The last thing is the call to action. So what do you want them to do? What is the solution? What do you want them leaving with thinking, okay, I've got to do this? Either need to tell people and spread the word, I need to do my part and, not brush my teeth with the water turned on. Like, what do you want people to do with this info? All right, so we're back to this again, okay? So before we did, We talked about all of this part. Now, the reports of negative impacts cite potential impacts, not lack of research that has showed a direct impact. So what that's saying is some of the research that they've done doesn't really show it's a direct impact. It's just what they think is going to happen. The concession is fracking is a relatively new practice. There has not been enough time to measure an absolute impact on the environment. And then the rebuttal, however, fracking is rapidly expanding in the United States, and waiting to act on potential negative impacts is irresponsible. So, this is what the other side would say. This is saying, okay, you're right. You have some points there, and this is where we shoot it down. And then finally, we end with the call to action. The federal government needs to ban hydraulic fracking in the United States or enforce stricter regulations. Local citizens should write to local legislators. So they're telling you right now what to do. They're kind of re-emphasizing a little bit the thesis and then telling you, like, look, this is what I want you to do right now. I want you to write to your local legislator, make them make a law. Okay? Do you understand the call to action? Are you already thinking about what you're going to do for yours? Awesome. Sure. So the call to action is what you want the reader to do. So yours is all about waste, right, Liana? So you would be telling people, hey, you said you want, you want your thesis statement for people to believe and understand that waste is a problem. So your call to action could be like, hey, listen, waste is a real problem in the United States. It's important that citizens start learning more about ways that they can reduce waste in their own lives. Starting with individuals will, spread to bigger things, or even one person could start a change or something cheesy like that would work. But so you want to tell them specifically what you want them to do. You could even say, responsible citizens should go to their employers right now and see if there's ways that they can help their small businesses or their business or their company eliminate waste. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. All right, so you are done. What you're going to do now for your exit ticket is you're going to write your topic. And this is, of course, on our class website. So I'm going to put it in this little box for you. She forgot. There you go. Your claim, which is your thesis statement, which Liana, you already kind of wrote part of yours. Your 3 reasons, which are basically just these things written out a little bit more. Evidence, just some things that you think you're going to include for evidence. So examples, statistics, expert opinions, whatever. And then this part's really important, your counterclaim, your concessions, your rebuttal, and your call to action. Okay? If you need any help with them, write down what you think would be a good idea, and then let me know, and we can work on it together, okay? But this should really help you with your paper that's due next week.